time.
Thank you, Lucia. Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I'm just going to share my screen here. And I'm going to start off with a presentation. And there's some links associated with the presentation. I'm going to paste a link into the chat window. And on that URL, you guys should be able to access the presentation itself, as well as all of the links in the presentation. So I'm gonna switch to the presenter view. Okay. Um, so I'm just gonna introduce myself. My name is Colin Goldberg, and I'm an artist based in Southern Vermont. I was born in the Bronx, New York in 1971 to parents of Japanese and Jewish ancestry. And I'd like to thank Lucia and the Taiwanese American Arts Council for inviting me to speak today, and the member artist Giovanna Sun for introducing Lucia and I. My studio practice as an artist spans both digital and traditional media, and my adoption of NFTs actually spans both traditional and digital media as well. And I'll explain that a little later when I show you guys some of my NFTs. But I'm going to start by introducing a project that is called Techspressionism, which is something that I like to think of as what's called a social sculpture. So for a little background, in the 1970s, there was a German artist named Joseph Beuys, that's spelled Beuy's, and he created the term social sculpture to embody his understanding of art's potential to transform society. And as a work of art, a social sculpture includes human activity that strives to structure and shape society. So the central idea of a social sculptor is an artist who creates structures in society using language, thoughts, actions, and objects. And that's sort of along the lines of what these salons are about. So Techspressionism's current working definition is an artistic approach in which technology is utilized as a means to express emotional experience. And that's based on the root words expressionism and technology. So I'm just going to jump in with a brief overview of Techspressionism and its history, how it got started, and then we'll jump to the web to view some of the NFTs that I've created. So I invented the term Techspressionism back in 2011 as a title of a solo exhibition in Southampton, New York. And the catalog essay for the exhibition was written by an art critic and curator named Helen Harrison. And that was the first use of the term Techspressionism in print. Ms. Harrison's the current director of the Pollock Krasner House and Study Center in Springs, New York, which is the former home and studio of artists Jackson Pollock and Lee Krasner. She's also been the curator of several museums on the East End of Long Island and was also an art critic for the New York Times. And Helen is currently serving as Techspressionism's senior advisor and was instrumental in helping to define the term. If you're viewing a recording of this presentation, you can pause playback and scan the QR codes on the screen with a mobile device to view relevant content. Or if you're a live viewer, you can also access the links behind the QR codes in that link that I pasted into the chat window, which are available at techspressionism.com/TAAC. So in 2014, I decided to write a manifesto to expand upon the ideas behind Techspressionism. And I was inspired by artistic manifestos of the past, including Andre Breton's Surrealist Manifesto and Marinetti's Futurist Manifesto. There's 10 points in the manifesto, but I feel that the first 3 are the most central. The first point is that the computer and technology in general are not separate from humankind, but are a natural extension of us. The second point is that technology is a continuum, which is as old as humanity, not a novelty or fad. The third point states that the computer is one of a long string of tools which have enabled personal human expression, including the typewriter, the camera, the printing press, the pen, the pencil, and paint. And NFTs can be seen as just another one of these tools that artists can use. Techspressionism was first referred to as a movement in a Wired article, which was published in 2014. The article entitled "If Picasso Had a MacBook Pro" was published in conjunction with an exhibition in which the manifesto was included in the printed catalog. The term was first given exposure on television through an interview I did with PBS during an artist residency at the studios of Key West back in 2015. So fast forward to the summer of 2020 when the pandemic was just getting going, and I did a Google News search for Techspressionism, and I saw that another artist, a woman named Oz Van Rosen, had used the term to describe her work in an article. So I reached out to her and asked her if she was interested in developing an artist group around the concept. And we had our first salon meetup on September 15th, 2020 over Zoom. And that was comprised of myself, Van Rosen, and fellow artists Steve Miller and Patrick Lichty, as well as Helen Harrison, who attended in an advisory role. The meetups are conceived of as a modern counterpart to the surrealist salons of the 1920s, in which artists could meet informally to socialize and discuss ideas. And at this first meeting, we established the current definition of Techspressionism and the goal of bringing it into common usage as a term of art historical nomenclature. So we developed a hashtag strategy to propagate the term Techspressionism via social media, specifically on Instagram. And over the course of the last 18 months, there have been over 30,000 Instagram posts published using the hashtag. So that's really how we got the word out, was over Instagram. And we did our first online exhibition, Techspressionism 2021, which opened in October, and it spans a diverse field of artists from 26 different countries around the world. The initial call for entry received over 1,200 artwork submissions, and a good number of the submissions are NFTs. So the work is created and placed in an online gallery using a platform called Kunstmatrix, which is a German virtual exhibition platform that we're partnered with. And each piece is clickable through to further information. And the pieces that are NFTs are actually clickable through to the minted NFT on whatever platform the artist minted it upon. So in the past 18 months, we have an online artist index that's grown from the 4 artists in our initial meetup to over 275 artists from 40 different countries, including one artist from Taiwan. So the use of technology to express inner emotional content within a fine art context is how Techspressionism relates to its predecessor, Expressionism. And like Surrealism, there are strong ideological and social components to Techspressionism. Like pop art, many of the tools and techniques used by Techspressionists are also commercial means of production, such as large format printers, commercial design and 3D modeling software, and so forth. Anne Spalter is an artist and collector and also author of a textbook called The Computer and the Visual Arts. And she wrote some content for our website, techspressionism.com. And what she said was, Techspressionism distinguishes expressive fine art results from such genres as digital art, which can also include animated movies and video games. So it's really a term used to describe technology used within a fine art context. And Anne Spalter also curated our online exhibition, NFT Now, which opened in May 2021 on techspressionism.com. And it was one of the earliest curated NFT survey exhibitions online. It was also selected as an ArtNet editor's pick during Frieze Week of last year. And this spring, we're going to be having our first physical exhibition, which is going to be opening at the Southampton Arts Center in Southampton, New York. And this is going to be the first large-scale physical group exhibition of Techspressionist artworks. It's going to be an offline show, but it's also going to be available online. And I'm currently in the process of curating this exhibition with Helen Harrison serving as an exhibition advisor. So I'm going to jump to a web view now and just show you guys quickly a couple examples of my NFT work. So this is my website, Glodberg.art, and a lot of my pre-NFT work was actually paintings, works on paper, physical artworks. I did my undergraduate studies in painting, and my graduate work was in computer art. So you can see the work combines both things. I paint on linen and paper and then run it through a large format printer and print directly onto the painted surfaces. So that's kind of like what my physical artwork looks like. And my first collection of NFTs was actually based on some digital drawings that I did over 20 years ago. Many of these were created in the period from 1999 to 2004 when I was living in Manhattan. And I was involved in web development very early on, right when the web was starting. So I worked in ad agencies, launched a number of consumer brands, Popular Science, Snapple, brands like that onto the internet during that time period. And at night, I would go home and make these abstract drawings. Most of them, they're actually all created in Adobe Illustrator. So they're vector-based drawings, which means they're scalable to any size that can be printed literally any size with no loss of resolution. But that also lends itself to the work being animated. So when I first learned about NFTs, which was through one of our salons, I actually met an artist named Andrea Bonaceto, who's an Italian artist living in London. And he was minting on a platform called Rarible, which I was involved in early on. And about a month after I met him and started talking to him, I saw him on the news that he had minted the first NFT collaboration with a robot, collaborating with a lab called Hanson Robotics in Hong Kong. And the NFT actually sold for $700,000, which is why it ended up on the news. And in that mint, which was done on Nifty Gateway, which is a platform created by the Winklevoss twins, who are the sort of infamous twins that believe that Mark Zuckerberg stole their idea. They're also behind Gemini, which is one of the larger trading platforms for cryptocurrency. They were the platform that his NFT was minted on. And that really, my conversations with him got me interested in creating some NFT work of my own. So my first works were animated pieces that were based on those drawings. And this is the first one that I did. And what I did was I animated them and also created audio that accompanied the work.
Local train. The next stop is 23rd Street.
So I've created, let's see, as far as that collection goes, 5 of them so far, and they've all sold. This one actually, other than this most recent one, this one is still available. I just minted it not that long ago. And the other ones have sold, and I actually had my first secondary market sale a few weeks ago, which was very exciting. What that means is that it was purchased from a collector who purchased the work. So that was this piece here. And so the beauty of NFTs are that through the smart contract, and I'll just turn the audio on so you can hear it. Let's see if I can get this full screen.
Discovery Houston, recommend vector transfer.
Computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
So that piece there, I took the audio from some open source audio archives from NASA's Discovery missions and other sources that, some of my own recordings. But basically, I've been having some fun with the animations. This most recent one, I moved into a collection for Techspressionism, which is set up now on Foundation. The links are all in that link that I posted. But this piece is a little bit sort of, a lot of people really like this when I made it as a print, and they said it kind of reminds them of like a 60s sort of psychedelic rock, like Jimi Hendrix type stuff. So. So that's created to be a seamless loop, and they're all 23 seconds, which actually is sort of a numerological reference to my birth date, which is the 23rd. I was born on December 23rd, and my daughter was actually born on June 23rd. So we have that in common, and it's a significant number to me. So all of my animated NFTs are actually 23 seconds long for that reason. I incorporate a lot of the use of numbers when I do mathematical transformations in my work. That's just part of my studio practice. And then this most recent series, there's two other collections. The first ones were before Foundation, which is the platform I minted the work on, offered collections. They recently started allowing collections the way OpenSea, which is another popular platform, functions. So this body of work was actually an experiment. These are a series of works on paper that are all they've been sold to a hospital, basically a public collection. And I had the idea, why not mint work that's physically been sold into collections, because the sale of work as an artist, and all of you artists out there should know this, it does not transfer intellectual property rights or copyright to the purchaser of the physical work. That is, if you buy a painting, that doesn't give you the right to make posters out of it. That is still owned by the artist. So I minted this series at a lower price point, and actually sold this one yesterday. So I think that I've started to think that I've been making art for like 30 years professionally, and I have a large inventory of images. Many of them, these were actually drum scanned at extremely high resolution. So my sort of plan is to leverage much of my physical inventory against this new technology, but also create new work based on, work created specifically as NFTs. And that's pretty much it. I just wanted to close with what I put on the this link here. There's a couple links that are just basic background information about NFTs that I find useful, and then all of the different links through the slide presentation, and then some other links that include some of the exhibitions that I talked about. This is the one by Ann Spalter, and then Giovanna Sun, who I see is on the chat here now, just did a pop-up show in Brooklyn for Techspressionism, and that's accessible online as well. And that's almost all NFTs, and several of the works from that show have sold as well. So yeah, I mean, my presentation wasn't intended to be technical in any way, more sort of like, for the standpoint of artists and collectors and that sort of thing. So thanks once again for letting me come on and share.
Awesome. I have a question, if it's okay.
Absolutely.
So you've been designing NFTs professionally for years. What kind of software do you use to design NFTs? Can you share that with us? Yeah,
so I mean, it's really been only since within the last year that I've been, creating NFTs. Probably March of 2021 was when I minted that first animated. Let me
rephrase that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ask you which software you use to create NFTs. Which software do you use to design your artwork?
Oh, okay. So the animations were actually done in, well, I do almost all of my digital composition in Adobe Illustrator to start with, in terms of doing the drawings, and I use a Wacom tablet and a pen to do my drawing. Thank you. And then the animated component is done in Adobe Animate, which is basically an evolution of what used to be Flash, which was prior to that Director. So I've been doing this since before the web. Basically, I was building CD-ROMs, and we used a program called Macromedia Director, which eventually became Flash when Macromedia was purchased by Adobe. And then Flash sort of got phased out in the late 90s and became Adobe Animate most recently, which allows you to author out animations as HTML5 and also as QuickTime movies. So I create the video animations in Adobe Animate, and then the audio is kind of edited together using a variety of different tools, mostly Premiere and Audition.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So my question is this: how do you take a physical object and make an NFT from that?
I mean, it could be as simple as, basically getting a really good quality, high resolution image of the object. We had our most recent salon yesterday. I'm just going to paste a link to the salons also into the chat, because definitely, it's an open invitation for any of you guys who want to attend to stop in. We do them every other Tuesday at 2:00 New York time, and it's usually artists that come in and present, and it's open to the public. But yesterday we actually had a glass artist who lives also in Vermont. I got introduced to him through a gallerist that we both know, and he has an NFT project where it's really fascinating. He is creating a chandelier that's already been purchased by a museum of hand-blown glass spheres that are going to be representing planets. And the NFT component is going to be that each sphere is photographed, and the owner of the NFT will have the ability to turn the light on in the chandelier remotely over the internet via an app or some other mechanism. But he's captured, the physical objects as photographically, but also, we were brainstorming and, talking about the possibility of the object being captured with a 3D scanner or 3D capture software, so it could be rotated. NFTs also allow for 3D objects, to be minted. So that's another possibility.
I see. Thank you very much.
And one other thing too is that a lot of the platforms, OpenSea, for instance, allows for what's called unlockable content. So when an NFT is purchased, the collector can also receive additional content, usually through a link. And one thing that I'm planning on doing at some point is dropping a collection of the original drawings for this Metagraph series, where the unlockable content will be the original vector-based files. So the collector will be able to also print the piece at any size with that vector-based file. So that's another way that, if you're a photographer or a painter, I would say, and there's a painter named Trevor Jones, actually, I think he's in London, who combines his painting practice with NFTs, so they're sold together. I've chosen to do it a little bit differently. My feeling is that, based on my experience, all of the collectors who bought my NFTs so far, I basically don't even know their actual name or location. I know them by a handle. And a lot of the people involved in crypto and the NFT world don't want to divulge their physical address, so they wouldn't necessarily want a physical work shipped to them. And most of my collectors of physical work, sadly, are at this point not very interested in NFTs. They see it sort of as a threat to what they consider to be art. So it's an interesting kind of dichotomy there.